Welcome everybody to our webinar. My name is Morgan DiGiorgio. I am the Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Direct Mail 2.0 and Who's Mailing What. And collectively, our sole purpose is to make direct mail the most effective form of marketing by integrating it with cutting-edge technology to add value for printers, mailers, and direct mail marketers. Now, some of our technologies are centered around tracking and attribution, hence our webinar topic today. And in the current marketing environment, it is more important than ever that we be able to prove and show marketers direct mail is driving results and give them insights into that data for so many reasons. The most predominant, in my opinion, is that costs continue to go up for this channel due to the postage increases and a lot of other factors. So we know mail works, but we need to ensure that our clients and marketers know it works so that they will continue to invest in the channel and be able to take advantage of the powerful impact driven by mail, right? So I'm joined today by our co-founder and CEO, Brad Kugler. Also, two other panelists who I'm going to give an opportunity to introduce themselves. So firstly, John Miglautsch from Miglautsch Marketing. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Well, I got my start in direct marketing with Vic Hunter in business to business in 1981. So I've got about 43 years or some crazy number in this field. I'm passionate about it. I don't think there's anything else that's as effective as mail. And I think most people don't even realize the power of it. Even the people who mail, even the people who model, they don't understand the really unique features of mail. And so that's why, if you haven't heard of me, I have about 2,000 videos on YouTube extolling direct mail. I'm the president of the Wisconsin Direct Marketing Association, and I'm so excited to talk about testing today and how that can pay off for you and your company.
He has a ton of content out there. He is an evangelist for direct mail attribution and testing. So if you haven't seen his content, like he said, over 2,000 videos, a lot of really good stuff there. So John, thank you very much for joining us today.
And I'm not affiliated with Direct Mail 2.0 any way except that they sent me a hat and I think it's cool and I got a mug. And if they sent me
we got swag.
What, I'd put that on my head too. Of course I would.
We appreciate it. We do.
People have said we're good at marketing, so obviously we're wearing the colors here.
You bet.
Our other panelist today is Guy Fashano. He's a sales manager for Mailing Systems Inc. Guy, tell us a little bit about yourself and MSI.
Well, thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Brad, for the opportunity to connect here. And John, great to meet you. I have to say I did watch a couple of your videos today, but not all 2,000. I got some work to do there. And obviously, I didn't get the memo about the hat. I mean, I got to get my hat. I think I have one of those from the many conferences I've been to, but more to come. Mailing Systems Inc., we've been around for 30 plus years. I've been a sales manager here for approximately 5 years, and we are a partner of DM 2.0. We love the product. We love the opportunity to be able to really make mail more effective for our clients. A little bit about Mailing Systems Inc. We're part of the Delta Print Group, which is a group of companies. There's approximately, I think there's 8 of us now that cover the span of all things print and mail. So we have any and everything that you can think of related to printing presses. And Morgan's been through our facilities. We have 2 of them. They're about 100,000 square feet each. Recently, we added an HP T250 inkjet web press, which is just an amazing piece of equipment for direct mail because everything you do on there is 100% digital and 100% variable. So Morgan knows I'm passionate about, direct mail attribution. And I always say in all my sales meetings, our goal is for our sales team is to make mail more meaningful and more valuable, get a higher ROI for our clients so we can show them the best results. And I've been working towards that and been doing a lot with that in our world. And I have some cool things I've been working on and I'm in the process of going to be implementing here probably in the next 30 days. Looking forward to sharing a little bit more about that here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that too. Guy has a very high male IQ, and especially when it comes to direct mail attribution, I myself personally have been very impressed with some of the reports that you've put together for your clients that you've been so willing to share with me. A lot of really great data in there. He gets into all the details and he ensures that his customers know that mail is working, but more importantly, what mail has done for his clients' companies and what kind of revenue that it's driven for them. So it's so important, right? If we want them to continue to invest in that channel. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much to our panelists. I'm going to be presenting some questions to our panelists. If anybody has any questions throughout this webinar, just go ahead and pop them into the chat. If we get an opportunity, we'll try to get to those during the webinar, but if not, definitely after we've had an opportunity to get through these questions. So we've come a very long way in terms of direct mail attribution from the spray and pray method. So my first question that I'm going to start off and pose to John is 20 years ago, how did mailers, marketers track or even know if a direct mail campaign was effective? And do those measurements still matter today, if there were any measurements at that time?
Well, I started in the days of key codes, right? And so we would put a little code on each address, and that would usually tell us which mailing list it was from. And oftentimes we had an order form or some other thing that you returned in the mail to order whatever you were going to order, so we could look up the tracking code. If we forgot to put the tracking code on, you could take a stack of mail and you could take a really juicy magic marker and go down the side with like purple. And that would be that list. And then you'd have a red marker for the next list. There was a lot of ways. We used to drill press sometimes, you get a template and you drill here for this list and here for that list and here for that list.
Wow.
There were all kinds of ways to do it. If you didn't know what you were doing or you forgot, you could also erase on the plate, so you'd have numbers 1 to 10 and you'd go erase the 9 and then the last number would be an 8 and then you'd erase the 8 and you go work your way back. But basically it was tactile, and I had clients that would actually change the part numbers every mailing so they could fully attribute each item to which mailing it was from. I thought it was a little idiotic, which of course
Let me ask,
I
John,
told them that. What?
that's if you brought the coupon or the order form was returned to the source or the advertiser.
Yeah.
What about when it was a brick and mortar or something such as that, that someone didn't bring the piece of mail in? How did you track attribution then?
You
Was
were
it-
almost out of luck, and mostly and call-ins. All of a sudden, then we had a big debate: should we do Watts numbers, which is wide area telephone service? Anyway, and there was big debate. Quill didn't do it for years and years, and Jack and I became friends. But you would say, okay, what's that number on the label, right? Or if it was on the part number, you didn't have to, because they'd give you the part number over the phone or mailed back in, and you were good to go. But the problem is that we still had problems in attribution because people we advocated an integrated marketing, we called it, with field sales, phone in and outbound phone, and mail. And so those people with the part number, I would say, okay, so now you mailed Acme Chemical 10 times, you called on them twice with your field sales, you called them 10 times on your outbound telemarketing, and you got an order, and you can track it exactly to that mailing. And you're going to give 100%, you're going to give 100% of the credit to that mailing piece. I said, that's insane. That doesn't even make any sense. And so even when we had hard numbers, it isn't quite as black and white as people wanted to make it sound. But
Sure.
that was the kind of thing we did before the internet, I suppose you'd say. Now almost no one really does that anymore. We all use pretty much matchback technology.
Right. No, of course.
Right.
Anything that you want to add to that, Brad?
I wasn't doing mail back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I do remember getting order forms and filling them
Sure.
out as a kid
Yeah.
and waiting for my sea monkeys to come in the mail. I mean, that was a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
I can't really comment other than I don't know how it was
Yeah.
tracked. People would judge sales, a lift in
Right.
sales that's date sort
Sure.
of correlated to when the mailing went out. That I
Right.
remember.
Right.
But
Or, hey, is your phone ringing?
yeah, exactly.
Are you getting more phone calls? Great. It's working,
Yeah.
There really wasn't a lot above and beyond what John was talking about. And honestly, I mean, I wasn't even knowledgeable about any of that stuff. I mean, it sounds like some real Fred Flintstone stuff.
You're younger than we are. So not
Hi, what
surprising.
about you? Any comment?
The only thing I would say as far as mail and attribution has come, we still do see some, I would say, old tactics out there, meaning, some people are using coupon codes, specific to a mailing. They're using specific phone numbers
Yeah.
that are only to that specific mailing, which are, they're good, but they're still flawed, right? I mean, so
Sure.
we still, and someone said earlier, spray and pray, and that's a term we still use today. We try and, help our customers not to do that, to have some methodologies built in so they're not in that position.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, with a lot of tracking attribution, we've come such a long way, but unfortunately, there are always going to be some holes still, right? I
yeah.
mean, you use a call tracking number. If the same number isn't on the website, someone goes to the website, they pick up the phone, they call that number. I mean, there are always going to be holes, but we've definitely come leaps and bounds in terms of tracking and showing direct mail attribution. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what some of those things are today, which comes to my next question. And I'm just wondering, I mean, even though we have come leaps and bounds, I don't know that all marketers are knowledgeable about these methods, or printers or mail service providers, or if they're utilizing them. So I'll pose the second question to you, Brad. Do you think that marketers are effectively tracking direct mail attribution in today's time and space? Why or why not?
Some are, some aren't. As we know that there are marketers that are much more sophisticated than others. And I think for two reasons. One, there's probably not a general knowledge of the ability or methodology to accurately track direct mail attribution as the primary. The secondary is you still got a lot of general marketers who have grown up with the point and click attribution models that are built into the services out there. So they that's what they know. People do what they know. And some people are not aware of the benefits of mail, such as no privacy restrictions, no spamming restrictions. There's no, yes, it's more expensive, but now you can take that attribution model that's pretty rock solid from digital world and move it over into mail with
Yeah.
QR codes and text backs and matchbacks, and it's really not a problem anymore.
Right.
But it's a matter of getting people to realize that this technology exists, that the cost is justifiable. And again, if I'm a pizza place and I'm selling $15 pizzas, I don't know that a direct mail campaign with all sorts of attribution is necessarily the right return on ad spend for them. It might not be. You're going to spend $1, $1.50 at Target to sell a $15 pizza that might not be there. But if you're selling a landscaping service that's going to cost you $1,500, $2,000 a year, or a house or a car, and you've got a 5-figure ROI, it justifies the spend. So again, you're talking to a market segment that A, is uneducated, and B, unwilling. And that is probably the barrier on why it hasn't been used more, in my uneducated opinion.
Well, I think it's a very educated opinion, but I like what you were talking about a pizza place, but I would always have to encourage a customer to look at the lifetime value of the direct
Of
mail
course.
campaign, because I might send out a direct mail piece and I get one pizza, but what if they order a pizza once a week because they eat pizza every Friday and they do that for the next year? Now I've really got ROI on my direct mail campaign.
I wish I could eat pizza once a week.
I wish I could too, but I can't. But some people do.
Yeah, it's true.
If
I
you're in
mean,
college, you might be
Every
doing
day.
Yeah. But they don't need, again, look at a college town. You
Yeah.
walk by it, it's next to the bar you're going to every day. Do you need to send direct mail? You know, you can hire a college student, I guess, put it under the door for $100. He'll put 500 postcards under a door. Why pay the USPS? There are barriers that need to be overcome before you even get to the attribution conversation with mail. So that's my point,
Well,
you know?
sure. But I want them to order from Joe's Pizza and not Domino's, you know? So that's why I need to mail to them.
Sure.
And Brad, I think you bring up a great point, and I think Morgan, you mentioned it, is educating the customers, right? So they really, really have an understanding of what, we're talking about. You talked about, what's the lifetime value of that customer. A
Right.
lot of customers don't even know that. They've never even heard that term, or the term, cost to acquire a customer.
Sure.
What would you be willing to invest to bring in a new customer? And then if you know the cost to acquire them and the long-term value, then you can really say, yeah, would I spend $5 or $10 to get that client? And Brad, to your point, I mean, you have customers. I did a campaign for and I had to talk the guy into. I happen to know him. He's a landscape guy. I said, hey, you should be selling some, mailing out some postcards. And then he gave me his numbers and I matched them back. And I said, well, what's your average sale? He goes, we're somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 per sale. I was like,
Wow.
are you kidding me? And I said, well, how did you? I said, I show the numbers. I said, I show that you got 5 customers off of this. He goes, well, 3 of them were bids and we did close $95,000 off of that postcard. I'm like, he's like, what do you think? And I go, what do I think? I said, keep mailing, man. There's no question what you think. I mean, you paid $5,000 for this mail and you sold $95,000. And I go, I guarantee there's more. And he goes, why do you say that? I said, because it's not 100%. We're going off of spreadsheets and guesses. I mean, so, but educating them and letting them know that what is your true lifetime value of your customer? Is that guy going to come back? Maybe. But what did it cost you to acquire him? I mean, it was, nothing to what you got in net return from that guy. So I think education is where I always start when I'm talking to someone, so I can kind of get a baseline of what they understand about marketing, what they understand about direct mail, and then trying to let them know, we're here to help them win. And
Sure.
some of that takes some education.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Cost per lead, customer
Yeah.
acquisition cost, lifetime customer value. If you're running a business and you don't know those metrics, how do you measure the effectiveness of marketing?
Sure.
It's almost impossible. All right. It's almost impossible. So, I just wanted to make mention, please ask questions. I've seen John's consulting invoices, and I'm telling you, he's here for free for the next 45 minutes.
Let's go.
Ask those questions, all right?
Oh my gosh, Brad. All right. Well, so we've talked about, different ways that we can track or show ROI or attribution for mail. So this, of course, is in your own opinion, right, to each of our panelists. And I'll start with you, Guy. What do you think is the best way to track mail ROI or attribution?
That's a great question, and I think there's many people have many opinions. And for us, what we do is we focus on not necessarily attribution, but closed sales. And we really try and get our customers to have that mindset of, we don't want to talk about how many people clicked on an ad or how many people call. We want to talk about net dollars that came into your door. So we get them into that. And a lot of times we're talking to them and they're talking about digital because they feel like they really know their digital spend and they know how much their cost per click is on a Google ad or LSA ad. But it's hard for them to understand what it costs for us to drive a sale to them. And then again, on the education, really giving them the information and painting the picture that we know that mail drives all those other avenues for marketing, whether it be TV, radio, Google web visits, Facebook, clicks. We know that mail is a part of that. And I think that's one of the great things about the DM 2.0 tool is I can tell them specifically the mail was dropped on this date. You received an informed delivery ad and you had this many clicks. So having that tool in there to show them that. But for us, what we like to do is get the customer's sales data
Mhm.
and do a true matchback report. So traditionally, we have a program that we developed that we coined. It's a Prism report, and we push it against there. And in essence, it's an access database that we had custom built for ourselves, and then we push data into that to get matchback and show the results of those sales. So
Yeah.
from that, we're able to show, ROI, return on ad spend, a lot of different things. Some of our customers who live in the what we call the home service space, so you're talking HVAC roofers, electricians, plumbers.
Yeah.
They have I would say two avenues of sales. One, where they're going to go and they'll do what we call an installation. It could be a big sale for a complete program, or they're going to go make a service call that's, maybe a couple $100. And they're going to try and get them to join what they call their MVP or maintenance club, so they can continue to go back to them. So we always try and measure and show them how many members they received into their MVP club, because there's a lifetime value of those, because they know every year they're going to come into their home and they're going to give them a tune-up, if you will, or give some type of maintenance. So we try and show them, hey, yeah, you did pay, let's just say $150 to get that customer, but we know the average customer spends $800 a year. And then in a 10-year span, they're going to spend at least $10,000. So yeah, you did get that one-time cost to go in there, but overall, it's going to be a win in the long run. We are currently working on a beta test where we're going to be integrating with a software program, the biggest one in the home services network. It's a company called Service Titan, where we're going to be integrating into their system. So every 24 hours, we're going to be able to see true attribution of closed sales and bids that have gone out that attributed to the campaign that we mailed. So we're very excited about that, because we feel there will be a lot of ways that we can utilize that to make mail more meaningful, doing testing, A/B testing against zip codes and offers, and we'll be able to see them in real time, as opposed to when we're doing our matchback report, we're kind of looking in the rearview mirror a little bit, right? Because that's data that's closed, data that's taken some time for the customer to get to us. The new program that we're working for is going to be live. It's going to be every day. We're going to be able to see that attribution. So that's really where we're wanting to go, is to get more into that daily closed sale, and we can show where they're living and what they're getting from their mail.
That's incredible. I mean, that sounds absolutely incredible. And just one second, John, I just want to make one comment. I think it's so important. Obviously, of course, as a business owner, I know Brad, relies very heavily on this and wants to see the ROI, right, when we're making an investment. But it's so imperative that we're tracking both the attribution and the ROI, because sometimes maybe the ROI may not be there, but that doesn't mean that it was a failed campaign, right? We need to see, was there attribution? Maybe we need to nurture those prospects a little further, or dive into the data a little bit more to see why we didn't get that ROI and what we can do going forward to get there, right? So I think tracking both is so important. It sounds like you've really honed in on a very valuable tool that you've built internally to help do that. So,
and one other thing, and you make a great point about the attribution of a sale and a lead. I think the one thing that I think we believe it as mailers, but we need to prove it, is a direct mail lead is of higher value than an internet lead. And because we know we're targeting the person that we want to talk to, the homeowner, how much, where they live, what zip code they live in, as opposed to a tire kicker coming in off the internet, right? So we know our sales are going to close at a higher rate, and they're going to be a higher dollar volume for that. We know that instinctively, but I don't necessarily have the data always to prove it out. And the other thing is to show them, yes, they did come in from a Google click, but I did put a piece of mail in their mailbox on this time. Being able to have that is going to be truly valuable, because we don't disagree. Yeah, they did come in from Google, but I drove them there. So having some of that information is going to be truly valuable.
absolutely. Now, John, you wanted to add to that too?
Well, I just want to take it up to maybe simplify it and also take it up a little bit, because what we're really after, and I think this gets lost, especially in this whole omni-channel world, what we're really after is what has the causal force to drive customers, to bring in customers that buy something. What causes it? And we're in this cloud of clicks and and you can do it with mail, as Brad said. You can put a QR code on it. Now we can get a click from that, or you can get a call. You can track the call back to the original mailing list that you rented with phone numbers on it. There's a lot of things you can do to get those little activities. And direct mail 2.0, one of the reasons I've wanted to work closely with you guys is you have a lot of those tools that can give you that immediate feedback. But that whole endeavor, is partly based on this lie that says that if we knew the customer was in the marketplace, if we knew their check engine light just went on, we could put a car ad on their dashboard immediately and we'd get them to buy a car from us, which is insanely stupid. I've always said, I'd love to sit
that sounds like a good idea.
Oh yeah, it's a great idea.
Things like service. I don't know about buying a car. If I got a check engine light, I'm not getting rid of my car.
Yeah, okay. Well, we have to in where I live. The federal government makes us do it pretty much. So but the problem is that, I don't know what I'm going to want next, right? And so I didn't know I was going to be in the market for a car. Now I am. Life is, you just don't know what's going to happen next. The fundamentals of advertising for the last 150 years, if you read Scientific Advertising with Claude Hopkins, for example, it's about getting in the customer's head so that when the check engine light comes on, you don't have to compete with everybody else. And so what we're
fair.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're looking for is well, what gives us that causal force? And how do we get more budget for mail? Those two things are connected, because the problem is with mail, a lot of times, they won't click the right QR code, or they won't do the thing the way we expect them to do. And so they go to Google, and now Google gets credit because they saw the mailing piece, boom, kaboom, kaboom, and now, or maybe they even went to the client's website 2 weeks ago, but they didn't buy, but we mailed them. And then they went, oh yeah, I've been meaning to, get that landscaping done. And so the key to uncover that causal force is to set up experimentation. That's how the scientific method works, right? The scientific method says, okay, well, we've got all these causes that could be happening in the world, but we're going to try and, play the two teams on the same field on the same day, and we can see which one's better, right? Not, hypothetically, can the 85 Bears beat the 67 Packers? You can do that kind of stuff all day long. That's kind of the way digital works, because in digital, we don't really know who's seeing our ads or if they're paying attention. It's like TV commercials. You kind of know who the demographic is, but you don't know if they got the TV on, or now even with cable, with internet TV, you can kind of know, but you still don't know if I'm getting a sandwich, right? I'm walking away. And even if I'm sitting there, you don't know if I'm paying attention, because now most of us, I'm watching a YouTube channel with the sound off on my TV. I hear that the millennials do that, but I've been doing it for a long time. I watch the YouTube, and then if somebody hits a home run, I turn the sound back on. So you don't know what I'm paying attention to in mass media and in internet media. And one of the virtues of digital advertising is it throws itself away, right? So you don't know the engagement level, no matter what, even if you know it's in front of. Whereas mail doesn't throw itself away. We know it got mailed. We know it got delivered. We know it went to a decision maker because, we didn't let our kids throw the mail away. We know that there's an interaction and a decision is forced. There is a decision. There has to be a decision, because you have to decide to keep it or throw it away. You have to on every piece of mail, right? Now, you may make that decision very fast, but over time, it's still more engagement than you'll get from, you know, a banner ad on the side of the screen or an email where I just delete 50 at a time every
Yeah,
day.
me too.
Hours, I delete 50 at a time. So mail has some virtue that the others don't have. You say, well, yeah, but I'm committed to Google. You know, I talked to a client not too long ago, or a potential client. They were spending $600,000 on Google a month, and they said they didn't have any budget for mail. And I said, here, I'll tell you what. The most fundamental test that we can run that doesn't take a lot of attribution is a holdout test, right? So Uber, all of a sudden, by accident, stopped their digital advertising for a week. They didn't mean to, but they did. And guess what?
What?
Sales, the
Nothing.
clicks, everything stayed the same.
Nothing. That's what I was.
Nothing happened. Okay. So if you're in this boat where you don't really know how much causal force your digital has, turn it off for a week and take that money. Okay, $600,000. So you got $150,000 now a month to try mail, right? Now, and here's the key. Don't mail everybody, right? Especially start with your customers. Mail them because we know who got mailed. We know they have to make a decision. So now what you can do is you can compare by not mailing everybody, mail 90% of them or 85 or, you know, or talk to a direct mail expert and they can tell you what would be statistically significant, but mail most, but don't mail all. And then compare over time and see what the value of the customers you mailed versus the customers you didn't mail is. And that actually is attributable EBITDA. If you're a CFO, if anybody's on here who knows anything about accounting, that you can get an EBITDA differential. Because what we're really looking for is the causal differential between channels. And we can do that with mail. And once you have that, so we worked with a retailer that was a national retailer, and they were doing a little catalog. It was doing terrible. So they hired us. And then they decided they probably should cancel it. So they called me up, the VP of marketing. He said, you know, we're thinking we don't just want to do the catalog. We don't know if it's valuable. People don't know our name. We'd rather take our money and put it into TV. But, you know, I said, well, would you like to know if the catalog is working? And he said, how could you do that? And I said, oh, that's easy. You know, you're mailing about 150,000 a month. We'll just not mail some of them. And then we'll compare. Okay. We'll compare what they do the next month or two. And we found right off the bat, 300% EBITDA. And I mean, we took out the cost of overhead. We took out the cost of the mail. We took out the cost of goods, right? So we're down to a real profitability. We had a 300% return on investment. And then when we were looking at our matchback data, we saw that there was a lot of next door neighbors ordering. This was a furniture company. So the lifetime value is tough because they advertise this is a kind of furniture you won't ever have to replace. You know, you can get new covers for it. You can make it always look new. So you get a $10,000 order, but then you may not get one ever. But what we found was for every one customer that was reordering, we found there were 2 new customers. And the ROI, EBITDA ROI for this retailer was 900% return on investment.
Incredible.
Right now, I'm just starting to work with a company that's committed to mail. And they're, you know, we can't, the tracking is just not working. Okay. So they asked me, well, can you figure out if the mail's working? Well, fortunately, because of budget issues and some other things, we mailed for about a month, and then we stopped for about. And all I did was line up the number of inbound calls, just simple stuff. No real attribution because they botched that all up. And what we saw was the number of calls going up and then number of calls dropping off. And then we started mailing again and they went up again.
Yep.
And that is the kind of causal force, the incremental difference. All the social media kept going. All the websites kept going. All the public relations kept going. All the field sales kept going. The only thing that changed was the mail. And that gives you some real foundation.
Sure.
And then at that retailer, we started testing the offers and testing the acquisition and testing all the other stuff. And all of a sudden we had all the budget we needed. They wanted to give us all kinds of money because, and they're still mailing today, because we showed them the incremental lift that mail had independent of all the rest of the stuff that went on.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, you know, I like one of the points that you made a little early on when you were starting to talk about this and how mail can play a significant role in a branding campaign, because customers currently are so cost conscious because of all the postage increases and because the channel has increased as a whole. But listen, advertising as a whole has increased and we're getting diminished. It's not just direct mail. You know, digital marketing is going up and the responses and results that we're getting from digital mail across the board is lower. But so the costs are going up, but they're so cost conscious and they're looking more into these micro mailings and these targeted mailings and they're so hyper focused on cost, but there's such a use case there for utilizing mail for branding purposes because it is such a powerful channel, right? So I really like the point that you made there, John. And the A/B testing is so crucial, and I know that that's a soapbox that you get on rather frequently, but it's so important.
Well, if you can know something for sure, then you can roll out that offer or that pitch or that brand positioning. You know, all of that strategic stuff falls into place if you know something for sure. And that's mail not only gives you the buyers, but it also gives you engaged people that didn't buy. And no other medium gives you that. And that enables the modeling. You know, later on, you've got a question. We have the questions here.
Sure.
Just like at the presidential debate. And it gives you both sides. You know where the fire hydrant is and you know where the fire hydrant isn't with mail. With other media, you don't know that because you don't know who's paying attention. Mail, you know there was a decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a no. And that's crucial to making AI work in terms of customer segmentation.
Now, we've got a ton of questions in the chat here that I will get to at the end. There's just one more question that I want to pose to our panel. And then we'll probably just have some time to get into those questions here. But just because it's one of the hottest topics that everybody's talking about in every single possible industry. And I'll start with you, Brad. But what ways do you see AI or machine learning changing the landscape on direct mail attribution?
Well, this is kind of my full-time job lately. You know, not to be cliche or trite, and AI's changing everything, but you know what? If it hasn't yet, it will. I think, and I've said this before, the way that the world changed in the late 1990s, early 2000s, I see us going through another evolution as big or bigger than that now. And we're back to 1999 where everybody's using the term internet and it's the next thing. Well, and now they're doing the same with AI, and there's going to be a shakeout. And this technology will proliferate to a degree that it will touch every aspect of marketing. The decisions that one used to have hunches about or a feeling or a gut feeling will be relied on big data algorithms produce an outcome based on past results. So the amount of data out there in terms of what has been accomplished with mailing campaigns or any type of campaign to any type of target, you're now able to hash that data together and predict future results based on past results. So I'm not going to say that it will replace testing, but you'll be able to sharpen your pencil to a degree that you will get very close to the result that you think you're going to get based on the data that has occurred before. And I think this is going to short circuit or help people direct themselves to a more focused and efficient marketing. We're building a platform for this. We're taking our millions of pieces of mail campaigns, including every single piece of creative, and we're tagging and annotating every single one of them and correlating them to a results database. And again, We're in the proof of concept stage with 2 different companies, and I'm hoping there's a tangible result. Imagine you had a piece of mail or a piece of creative. You feed it in with your zip code list, your time of mailing, the date you intend to mail, and the verticals you intend to mail to. What is it? Is it real estate, automotive? And it will spit back your intended mail, and it should tell you your expected result based on this past history. So the data is there. It's just a matter of building the predictive models that are accurate enough to predict future results. I mean, you've heard stories of mathematicians say that almost any outcome can be predicted with enough data of past results. I believe that. There's always outliers, but if a majority can be predicted, then it's worth it. Now, John's laughing there.
Oh,
I don't know
I'm
if he's
gonna.
laughing in agreement or if he's laughing that I'm crazy, but
I know you believe it. I think it's funny.
I absolutely believe it.
Right, but I've done thousands of models, put them in the mail. So I have a little different perspective, I suppose. We started in 1995 pioneering machine learning and beat every modeler and pretty much across the face of the world. And I know what machine learning will do left to its own, and I know how to beat it. And, I want to be involved, Brad, somehow or other.
Well, I'm going to have proofs of
need a level-headed
concepts.
person here.
I believe, and I've taken you to task on some. How do you actually have a controlled group on mailing? If you send the same group of people,
you're right.
How do you know that the second result didn't build on the first result? And if you pick 2 different groups of people, how do you know that those 2 different groups don't have divergent ideas and would produce a similar result? So I think there's flaws with your purity of control group testing in mail.
Except we have really big, and part of it is the validation process, where we compare the results that we're getting from the historical data. All data is historical, so your prediction is kind of just a resorting of history. But what we do is we look at the variables, and that's why a human being is so valuable, because we look at the variables and we say, does that make any sense? Now, over time, you build a library of which variables had the most impact, and that's a really important piece. But having that human involved can sort out the nonsense, because the computer won't. All the computer will tell you is the correlation, the p-values.
Well, I think that you can build out technology.
You can have judgment built in. You can flag outlier traits that and either weight them less or more depending on anything that you can figure out. You can teach a computer, and it can look at the data much quicker and much more thoroughly than a human can. So, all right, we don't have to have a mathematical.
Yeah, we don't need to or a large debate. I mean, listen, I think both play an integral role in building effective mail campaigns. I think that it shouldn't be necessarily left to, human device or AI. I think that we take advantage of technology, but it should never be left solely up to technology without human action and without going down a rabbit hole. I have some of my own concerns about the artificial intelligence and things like that, but I think that AI is going to provide a powerful impact, not just in our industry, but several others, but it should be utilized responsibly. And I think with human intervention as well. So, Guy, did you have anything to add to that? No.
No, I'm pass. I'm good.
Well, there's lots of questions here.
I wanted to hit Sandy's question, because that's a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
The holdback has to be random, right? Yes. And it's interesting, because in that retailer example where he did the holdout test, what we didn't realize was some of the households had multiple households, right? So they were snowbirds, they were in, and so we held them out in one place, but we mailed them in another without realizing it. And that muddied up our first test. And then what we did was identify them on customer ID, not just on the physical address. We also, instead of making it random across the board, because the 80-20 rule will say that your bad customers will be overrepresented. So we took our segmentation and then we did an nth on each major segment, like if you think of a decile, so that we randomized the good customers into the holdout, as well as the medium customers and as well as the bad customers. So yes, it's not quite as easy as I made it sound.
Again, like I said before, John is always available as a consultant for a fee. So there's a couple other questions here in the chat. Bill Redman was asking, we see so many mailers using letters instead of postcards. Is there any data on performance of type of direct mail piece? We prefer postcards, but see many mailers using letters. So
I have the same question. I think that's great. I'm wondering if our models dig
Yeah,
into.
I'm wondering if your models, we
Ours
could
does.
do that.
So we do track letter and postcard, Brad, in our platform. Yes.
We do. So we
Right.
have.
And I think it depends. Listen, this is one of those questions, just in my personal opinion. It depends on the vertical, the industry. I mean, yes, it just depends on what you're utilizing the mail for. So
Yeah, I had a client mailing into South America for business to business, and they were always doing postcards because they'd done that in the United States. And I said, have you ever tested an envelope? And they said no. And I said, and this was a really small. This is my daughter was a marketing person in South America. And I said, you ought to try an envelope. Well, they got 4 times the response because in South America, they don't like, they don't trust the mail. They don't trust the post person. They don't like them reading the mail as it comes to them. And so they just don't put any important stuff in a postcard.
Right.
And nobody knew that. But now in this new project I'm working on, we don't have a lot of count. We're doing business to business and consumer. And so we're alternating postcard, letter, postcard, letter kind of thing, just to change up the look.
Yeah.
But it's very, very simple to print a few extra, of each time. And so the next time if you mailed a postcard, now you mail a letter, but you can mail some of those postcards against the letter format and get a really good feel because we know who we mailed, and you do the matchback like Guy was talking about, and like Direct Mail 2.0 gives you the tools to do. And it's a really easy way while you're changing things up, instead of mailing one thing, Vic Hunter used to say, we always test something when we mail. So instead of just mailing it one way, instead of just mailing one way, let's mail 10%. It all depends on the statistical segment, and we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But it's good to have enough that you get a good confidence interval. But that's a great test, but you should be doing it anyway.
Sure.
And so as you're doing it anyway, you can test it.
Yeah, and applying it within so many other numerous factors above and beyond vertical industry, like audience, different demographics prefer to be marketed to in certain manners and fashions. It just really depends what the offer is, what type of information is on the mailer. There's so many different things that you could test.
Yeah. Barb has a good answer, and I agree with her. Yeah, when there's serious information, the envelope will almost always win.
100%. Yeah, insurance, financial industry, things like that. Sure, absolutely.
But, right, she says, but use a postcard follow-up. Absolutely, it's perfect. That's really good. Yeah,
that's good to know.
Oh, this is a good question. Kara Bowler was asking, can you talk more about matchbacks in an omni-channel world? Now, Guy, you used a lot of Direct Mail 2.0 campaigns with omni-channel, and you have had matchback reports where you're tracking and showing attribution. Can you weigh in on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so there's always going to be, and we've talked about multiple times here, where people say, well, I'm running TV, I'm running billboards, I'm running radio, I'm running my direct mail. How do I know which one is working? And everyone always says, well, all my marketing is working. I just don't know which one, right? So when you have a true matchback, we can show direct attribution to that level of address. So if we're matching back to a physical address, and that's typically what we're doing for our home service providers, is we are matching back to them. So they can say, okay, well, I saw that person. A lot of the softwares will show, well, they came in through Google or through Yelp, or maybe they called on a TV ad. And I always say, I'm not disputing that, but I know definitively between this date and this date, I put a piece of mail into their mailbox and they became a customer during that time. I said, we could go back with semantics and say which one drove that lead. What I traditionally do on my reports is I'll take the full number of attribution and I'll knock it down 20%. And I'll say, and I have another chart below there that says 100% all the way down to 50%. And I'll let the customer decide. I say, well, you decide on what you feel your TV or your radio or Google drove. But I'm telling you, 100% of these people were mailed to within this campaign timeline, and they became customers. I said, if you want to say 25% came because your radio or your TV, that's fine. And then traditionally, the numbers are still significant for direct mail. So I try not to get into a situation where I'm arguing with my customer. I'll just say, okay, just you can have it back or give it to whoever you want. That works for me. I'm fine with that. So in that new tool that I'm working on developing, it will have that in there. It'll be built into there. It'll say these people were mailed to and became customers during this time. However, they did come through another channel. Maybe they came through a LSA ad or a Yelp or a Thumbtack or something like that for the home service guys. So again, I don't think anyone can ever solve that specific problem because there's multiple channels being, worked at the same time.
Absolutely. And then a lot of times I like to suggest, just to, piggyback on that a little bit too, Guy, I would never suggest to a customer that they remove their digital marketing. It's playing a very significant, powerful role in their overall branding and driving leads. But when I think about omni-channel, I think about it as an enhancement to the mail campaign, right? And I say, hey, let's take some of that digital budget and let's attribute that to the mail and let's help reinforce the direct mail campaign. So we know that these digital ads are here mimicking the direct mail, and they're as powerful as they are because first we got that tangible, powerful, impactful impression with the high brand recall from the mail, right? And then we utilize that and we repeat that messaging through digital more inexpensively. And then we can say, listen, we want to put together an omni-channel marketing campaign for you that is going to give you the best of both worlds, because in today's current marketing ecosystem, it really shouldn't be about, where do I put my budget, direct mail, digital? Like we should be using both, but in the most effective ways possible, right?
Absolutely.
And so we can use UTM codes and we can track and we can show them, hey, we're getting clicks to the website from these digital marketing campaigns that we set up to reinforce the mail. We can see how many hits to the site we're getting from our omni-channel campaigns. We can track and show attribution with our lead match pixel, right? If we can de-anonymize a website visitor and match that back to the mailing list, we can show people from the mailing list went to the website, and then we can show hits to the site from the digital. But the truth of the matter is that they're all working together in a synergistic way to drive revenue. And I think it's so important that we prove that direct mail is playing such an integral role in that space so that they can.
Nobody said this as an attribution method. I haven't heard it once.
I did.
Somebody
I
said QR codes.
Okay. I must
Yeah.
have
QR
said
codes for sure. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Okay, same. I am too.
Joel
Absolutely.
had a good question about spectacular formats.
Yeah.
Can I touch on that? I noticed American Express has the swirly like spot varnish on their credit card mailers for a while now. And then I noticed a couple months ago, 2 months ago maybe, they didn't have it, and basically the same mailer, and it came back again. So that question, one of the ways to address it is with like a who's mailing what. And do they go, it's not A/B splits because you don't know what they test, whether they tested it well or poorly. But, I saw that for one particular client. And if you go to Brad and say, well, in this industry, I'd like to see if people tend to repeat those spectacular mailers. I think that would be a great application for who's mailing what.
And we do track that.
We
So
do. Yeah.
the mailings that are done, and I'm sure everybody's seen it. Capital One credit card offers always have an interesting die cut in the envelopes. I think we've all gotten a dozen of them, which is interesting because you get your mail and that little die cut sticks out in your stack of mail. There you go. There you go.
I've
Everybody's
never
doing it
seen this
now.
before. This is from my little bank. I couldn't believe.
Oh, well,
How cool is that? That was super cool.
I think Capital One started that craze a couple of
Okay.
years ago, but it seems to be very prevalent now.
Ah, I think this was awesome. I
Yeah.
was gonna
Yeah.
call the bank, see where they got
Well,
that.
I mean, guys, I don't know about you, but I could talk about this topic all day and go off on about 100 different tangents, which I think we went on a few today, but it was really valuable information. We're about out of time. We're about 3 minutes to the hour. Guy, John, thank you so much for your time today on the webinar. There was a couple of questions that people just asked of the hosts and panelists, so we'll send you an email or get with you directly on those. But thank you everybody for spending a little bit of time with us today, and we hope to see you on the next one next month. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank
all your
you.
time.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.